My name is Emmanuel Diaz, and I'm your host for this afternoon. As we progress in the workplace, each year we have to be more flexible, more dynamic, and more empowered. Our next panel will explain us how intrapreneurship is the future of work. Rasa Strumskite, Chief Strategy Officer of Talent Garden, will lead the panel and introduce the speakers. Please help me give a warm round of applause to Rasa.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Rasa. I'm a Chief Strategy Officer of Talent Garden, one of the largest European networks for the tech community, working on the smart workspaces, innovative education, and all the connecting activities. And since the future of work has been one of the most recognized topics in the last years, I'm really happy to host our speakers, 4 panelists. Please give them the applause and welcome to the stage. So today, together among the panelists, we have really different expertise and different skill sets. All of us are somehow working on the future of work from different perspectives and have different points of view. So before we actually deep dive into the discussion, I would like to have a maybe really quick round of introduction, who we are and what we do, so the audience can understand it better.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here, actually. My name is Gonzalo Torres. I'm the country manager of Malta, Spain. We are a freelancing platform. We put in contact companies and freelancers, and we are creating the concept of the extended workforce, just creating long relationships between companies and freelancers. So it's what we do.
Hi, Antonio Fontanini. I am the Chief Optimistic Officer in every place where I stay, but I'm here invited by a company we know together, Opino, where I'm the Chief Exponential Officer. And in the real life, I am an investor. I invest in dreams, in startup, in IT. My base is in San Francisco. And I really am passionate, I'm very curious, and I'm really happy to stay here and to listen and to learn from this amazing panel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pablo Santos, and I represent the LDI, Laboratorio de Ideas, an entrepreneurship group that we created 3 years ago. The LDI is formed by 5 Naturgy workers, 5 friends, Ivan Álvarez, Manuel Núñez, Oscar García, Alfonso Zárate, and me. We believe that our ideas could add value to the company, and we start this project.
Hi guys, my name is Mario. I'm based in Southeast Asia, specifically between Manila and Singapore. I guess the only one based there. And I'm the CEO of Fly Spaces. We are the largest co-working space aggregator, so like an Airbnb for flexible office space in Southeast Asia. We fundraised more than $3 million. I was in Rocket Internet before. I left after the IPO. And I'm also a professor in IE Business School for sales, negotiation, and peak performance.
Thank you very much. Actually, it's just an accident that we are sitting all in order, because I was thinking how we can combine our expertise and share the knowledge in the most efficient way. So let's start with you, Gonzalo. I know that you are having a huge community of freelancers, and freelancing and independent workforce, it's something booming like crazy, right? And we have all those stats of reaching 50% by 2020. So could you share a little bit of insights from this industry? What's happening? Why do we want so much to be independent, to work remotely? What's happening with our skill sets? What's your view on that?
Well, that's true that actually the freelancing workforce is a trend. This is a fact. In the United States, there are like 54 million people that are freelancers. It is the 54% of the total workforce in the United States. And actually, as you said, by 2020, it will be the 50% of the total workforce is going to be freelance. So actually, this is this concept of the extended workforce. And actually, this is a challenge. Because imagine if you are corporate managers, how are you going to deal with employees and with freelancers 50-50? I mean, it's a real challenge that we have to face in the 3-4 years from now. And the thing is that this concept of extended workforce is something that the future corporate managers have to deal with new skills. We see, for example, that the future corporate managers have to deal with the vision and the mission and the values of the companies, but they have to deal with people, with specialists, that they are super eager to grow, to learn, to new technologies. But it's a challenge. We know it's a challenge, and it's something that is going to happen in 2 years.
Years, yeah, that's pretty impressive. And Antonio, I know that you're also working together, right? Your companies. And if you think about this independent workforce organizational point of view, right? You mentioned before liquid organizations. Could you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yes. In less than 10 years, 40% of big corporations in Fortune 500 will disappear. We know that before, a company stayed in the Standard & Poor's index for 70 years. Today, the average is 15. So big corporations are competing in a very tough environment. Like in Bocadillo, they are the ham and cheese. On the top, they have GAFAs, Google, Apple, Facebook, Alibaba, and Amazon, which are companies with really huge brands, big cash, and they are loved by their customers, and they count customers in the billions. And on the bottom side, they have startups. They have fintech and agri-tech and secure tech. So to compete in this very tough world, they need to really be agile and think like startups. This is why they need a different kind of profile and build these liquid organizations. For example, they have to have a dual organization on one side, a CEO with the E of executive, managing and executing the business model they know, but at the same time, they have to have a CEO with the E of entrepreneur, managing in a different environment, with a different skill, different portfolio. And this is why they need to attract intrapreneurs and creating agile organizations with this kind of concept. Liquidity means that Gonzalo could be an employee or could be a robot. He is a robot, in fact, or a chatbots or freelancers, and creating what, for example, in Naturgy they do very well, creating open innovation spaces where they attract new talent, fresh ideas from different environments, or, for example, creating a corporate venture fund or creating corporate venture buildings or putting antennas in Silicon Valley or Israel or Boston. So the organization we see in the future are completely different from the actual organizations. And let me see two really important facts for this. First of all is diversity. When I stay in a board and everybody looks like me, I say, hey guys, we have a problem. And something will be fixed, because nobody is so intelligent, so smart to compete with diversity. And the second point is intelligent, collaborative intelligence. Do you know how we can make smarter teams, Guy? What is the most important thing with a team being smarter?
Tequila.
More women. More women make a smarter organization. So a liquid organization is a place where we can work together in a flat organization, in open spaces, with especially women entrepreneurs.
And we just lost our women panelists today. But I think it's a really interesting point, and actually I have recently read a study that said that almost 50% of executives from the corporates in Europe are seeking for this inspiration how to deal with the future of work outside the organizations. And I think that here Pablo might have a really interesting experience to share, because we are somehow touching this future of work topic from the intrapreneurship perspective, right? And you said working on the future internal ventures and the spin-offs and basically organizing innovation inside out.
Yes, we start, as I said, 3 years ago, and nobody asked to do this. We are a group of friends, 5 workers in Naturgy, and that we think that our ideas could add value to the company and start this project. Many companies in Silicon Valley start in a garage, and we have our own garage. We have a meeting room near our workplace where in our spare time we began to share our ideas, and the LED was born. Then we decided to take the initiative and send our ideas to the directors of each area of the company. And Naturgy recognized this initiative. During these 3 years, and in parallel with our usual work, because we do it in our spare time, the LDI has collaborated in strategic challenges and has proposed more than 60 initiatives for the company. And Naturgy is very proud of this adventure. We are a bit like the A team, but for innovation, with the I team. And if you have a problem, maybe you can hire the LDI. But to continue leading innovation, Naturgy needs the participation of all the workers in the group. There are a lot of them that began to innovate, but we need all the participation because we represent a kind of worker that thinks different, but there are another kind of worker in these big companies.
If I may ask, participation is a really huge topic, this engagement and involvement, because innovation can't happen without the participation. How do you encourage the participation?
Yes. There is a motivational phrase that said, you have to get out of your comfort zone. But I understand perfectly the worker that say, for what? Because I'm doing the same thing for years and my work is going very well. And for answer this and to motivate the other workers, we usually tell a story, a short one, that is it was the year 2005 in Finland, and a worker called Jose Luis Jurgensen was going to work at the factory. His job is not the best, but he was happy because he had a job for a lifetime. He worked for one of the largest companies in the world, leading in its sector. Mr. Jurgensen worked doing the buttons of the Nokia phone, and he had doing the same thing for 10 years, and there was no need to change anything. At the same time, 9,000 kilometers far from Finland, a man opened the door of an office full of engineers and said, hey, we are going to make a new phone, and closed the door. At time he opened the door again and said, one thing, the phone is going to have only one button, and closed the door again. The engineers look at each other saying, he's crazy. But this crazy man was Steve Jobs. And while Mr. Jurgensen was still doing the same thing, the iPhone was going to devastate Nokia. They didn't see it coming. In these times, if you don't get out of your comfort zone, you can lose it. You can lose your comfort. And as we said in the LDI, innovation is not a fad or innovation is not a pose. Innovation is an obligation.
That's a perfect answer. And touching this, the comfort zone and innovating, Maria, you might have an interesting perspective because you're the citizen of the world and you're most of your time between Europe and Asia, right?
If I can just pick up one thing on the freelancer, because all these statistics you guys said are applicable in this part of the world. They're not applicable in my part of the world.
So what's happening in that part of the world in terms of future of work?
The thing is that, as European and Western economies, they reach a pretty advanced stage, right? That creates a lot of security, right? So you don't work, you still have healthcare system here, So not in the US, but But what I mean is that is favoring the freelancer wave, like millennials, especially in Europe. In my opinion, they're not really hardworking, so they all want to become influencer on Instagram, okay? In my part of the world, okay, my employees, they need to travel 2 hours to get to the office. They work 8 hours, 2 hours to go back, and they are very hardworking. It's impossible to beat Asian on the amount of dedication they put on work. So the fact that our economy, in Southeast Asia, we don't have such an advanced economy, no security, no healthcare, really need to work hard to bring food home. Most of my employees, they support their families, right? So the freelancer wave is far from happening until this economy will reach the middle income status. When you reach middle income status, then freelancers start to flourish because people, they value more free time or they value their own creativity and so on. But this is not happening in Southeast Asia. However, in the Philippines, freelancer.com or Upwork is the single most represented country in the whole platform. We have 2.5 million Filipinos freelancer on freelancer.com, but it's a very big, simple reason. Philippines has been overtaking India for outsourcing, right? So India was the #1 country for outsourcing forever until Philippines start flourishing because Filipinos have an amazing accent. They're just very pleasant on their accent when they speak. So that created a cluster of IT, BPO industries. That created a cluster of outsourcing. That created a cluster of freelancer, right? But in the other part of Southeast Asia, let's say Vietnam or Indonesia, etc., people, they tend to go for an established companies because it brings security. So good or bad is not my point to say, but we are far from that freelancer thing. Right?
What do you think about that, as you have a big European freelance community?
Actually, the thing is that I'm totally agree, okay, because actually the freelancing movement is not at the same phase in the States, in Spain, in France, or in Philippines. But the thing is that we see at the history, we see, for example, that Upwork, 10 years ago, it was Odesk and England's freelancer. It was the punctual freelancing hiring was actually a success. And now it was a success in Europe, and now it's in Philippines. Now, for example, technology is allowing other kind of relationships. It's allowing creating liquid companies. It's allowing matching freelancers, long-term relationship freelancers with companies. That's a liquid organization. It's leverage assets. So that's happening now in the States. It's coming to Europe, and in 10 years, maybe, or 15, it's going to Philippines. So actually, it makes sense what you're saying. And if you analyze everything, it's everything in their face.
If I just might add, we see freelancer happening in advanced economy like Singapore. So in Singapore, you see co-working spaces like some of our co-working spaces, right? It's full of like freelancer with very high-end like innovations or like product design, etc. Or in tropical paradise like Bali or Phuket, you do find a lot of like Swedish, whatever, Italian, Spanish, Americans that they live in Bali, they need to support themselves, and they provide services all around the world, but they are based in Bali. But you don't find this in Jakarta, you don't find this in Manila. Manila is not exactly tropical paradise.
and since I know we have only a couple of minutes left, and it's absolutely interesting topic, perhaps like one takeaway that we could give to the audience and everyone that came to listen, like what would be that advice? Because we all have different perspectives, like freelance, corporate, organizational. What would be that one advice that would help us to adapt and work better in the future of work environment from you personally?
I think we all, the panel, we're in the same line. I think is that the companies working now, they are not going to last in 10 years. So whether you adapt to new technologies, methodologies, the newest scenario, and actually Antonio had the point in that quote, or you will die.
I think that to attract entrepreneurs and create these liquid organizations, first of all, you have to see your business as an ethical journey. You need to impact in your society. So this smart guy, this liquid organization will happen. I just see a small video by Jack Welch. It was really inspiring. It said, if you want to attract really great people to your organization, you have to be the chief meaning officer. You have to explain why people have to follow you. And at the same time, you have to say, what is in it for me? You are asking for people to change, to take big risks, to take failures. So you have to explain why they have to change, which is the most difficult thing for us. You have to be the chief brooming officer, like brooming, brooming out all the silos, all the bureaucracy, all these obstacles that these guys have to create their own theme to fight the culture, the internal culture. And being the chief fun officer. If you go to the work and you don't have fun, how you can get the best talent in your office?
My point of view is, for a big company, I think it's innovation, simple innovation, and don't do the things because it's always done in the same way. We have this kind of problem. And I bring an example of this. In the umbrella, sorry, the umbrella. It has been done for centuries in the same way, until someone said, stop, let's don't do it because always has been done like this, and let's think. And then they do this, I carry one. An umbrella, forgive me the superstitious, an umbrella that opens upside down. Yeah.
You make this in Naturgy.
Yes.
I like it. I like it.
I'm going to make it. It's because you can get out of your car better. When you close it, you don't get wet. And in windy days, when the wind blows, nothing doesn't really matter to me because it doesn't break. And this is not a home shopping network. This is an example of simple innovation. This is what we need. And I have an example of not doing things because it's always been in the same way.
Actually, I might need this one. Next week, I'm going to Ireland. And every time I go there, it rains.
You need one of
You will need two.
in windy days. This is perfect.
Mario, what about you? The last takeaway.
I completely agree with Antonio. I mean, in Rocket, I had nearly 9,000 employees. So managing 9,000 young people, it's a challenge. Trust me on this, okay? Now I only have 50, okay? But the secret sauce of how a small startup like mine now win over talents to the big startup we have in Southeast Asia or the American startup entering Southeast Asia or the big conglomerates, it's all about culture. It's all about chief energizing officer, chief whatever officers. Like, I mean, every morning on Slack, on the general Slack, so those of you who know Slack, you have individual chat, group chat, and general, right? So be careful when you're drunk and write things on general, okay? Just like a disclaimer, right? So the first things they do is like, hey, Jennifer, how's your Tinder date going? To the general Slack, you know? And Jennifer has an emoticon that says, swipe right, you know? And they all love it, okay? So the young guys, I can only speak for Southeast Asia, again, I don't know in Europe, but the young talented kids that they have, they value much more environment than money, right? They're not necessarily money-driven, they're purpose-driven. So when they see that, you know, the company they work for has an impact in the day-to-day of other things and other businesses or other people, that what makes them belong to your company, right? Chinese, different story. They are still money-driven, okay? But, you know, the young kids in Southeast Asia, the one we have 11 languages, 4 religions, and 3 genders. Now ask me what's the third gender. Okay, so we got every possible color in my company. Only 50 people, right? So they really appreciate more environment than rewards, monetary rewards. The rewards is the environment. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I think about like Talent Garden and what we believe about this future of work and the transformation, perhaps like all those small elements go down into one thing: is the mindset. How open we stay and how open we are to accept all the new things and change our culture and grow. So this is what I'm going to wish to all of you. Be the change officers for yourselves, for your companies, your businesses, and give a big round of applause to all the panelists who shared their experience and thoughts.